Now, in-depth coverage of the Texas legislative session. In session, in depth.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us for a special edition of In Session In Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle, and this morning I join you from West Texas, just blocks away from the site of a devastating fertilizer plant explosion. It was ground zero for one of the worst disasters to hit our area in recent years. Many buildings in Zone 3 look more like a war zone than a small Texas town. 14 people are dead, including 10 first responders. Some 200 people were hurt. With disasters of this scale, many wonder what caused it and how people will recover. This week, local, state, and federal officials stopped by West to see the damage. On Thursday, President Obama spoke at a memorial service in nearby Waco. Members of Congress, including Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, also visited West. Governor Perry toured the area, talking about the investigation into the cause.
Now is the time to be both making the recovery side of this and also asking those type of appropriate questions about that.
But as the recovery efforts gain more traction, so does the search for answers to what caused the fire that led to the explosion. So far, investigators have ruled out natural causes. They were also looking into a theory that a nearby rail car caused the fire. However, now it appears the burned out rail car was actually damaged by the explosion and not the other way around. One issue for investigators now, they don't know how much ammonium nitrate was in the plant thanks to a gap in federal law. After the Oklahoma City bombing and September 11th attacks, the federal government required companies storing more than 400 pounds of the explosive ingredient used in fertilizer to register with the Department of Homeland Security. But the owners of West Fertilizer did not register, even though state records showed it had the capacity to store 270 tons of the chemical. The problem, the federal Department of Homeland Security doesn't investigate facilities that don't file reports. Efforts to strengthen federal oversight of the material for safety reasons stalled in Congress back in 2007. But the West Fertilizer plant was fined multiple times for violating regulations over the past few years. In 2006, TCEQ investigated the plant after a complaint about an odor. The agency hadn't been back because there hadn't been any other complaints. But in 2011, the EPA cited the plant for not having an up-to-date risk management plan, which the company later created. But last summer, the federal agency that oversees pipelines fined the company $10,000 for improperly labeling storage tanks and preparing to transfer chemicals without a security plan. Environmental groups like the Texas League of Conservation Voters are targeting several bills in the state legislature to loosen regulations. That group's leader says even if there were questions into what caused the explosion, it would, quote, seem like this would be the wrong time to be weakening environmental regulations and the ability of cities and communities to take part in the process. Waiting for answers has been especially frustrating for the people waiting the longest to get back to their homes. Many found out there was no home left to go back to. We got a first look inside one of the hardest hit neighborhoods. Spring Street, now dubbed Destruction Drive.
The insides of houses demolished, people trying to get help. It's awful.
Too awful to stay put. Christy Jones and her family lived here only 2 months before the blast.
So we're having to pack our stuff up and take it to a storage or somewhere like that until we can find a house to rent.
But moving day is a little light because they have to leave behind a lot.
The couches were covered in glass. All the floor was covered in glass. Both the windows were busted out.
And their neighbors were even worse.
All their ceilings caved in.
Next door is not like this, and it's just crazy the way it damaged things.
Most won't move back on this block.
Just stay strong for each other.
The Joneses were at church when the explosion hit their house.
We have 6 in our family. I have 3 girls and 1 boy.
Christy credits faith for her family's survival and its future.
I just praise God because my family wasn't here. Still to come, our West coverage continues. A visit from the president as families in the area begin the healing process. When In Session In Depth returns.